Hey, DM Scotty here. Welcome back to part 2 of our regular tile segment. And we'll just hop right back into that and finish up the tile. I've also decided to add some visual interest to this tile. It'd be kind of a boring battle if they just go in and there's no obstructions or anything. So this is the case where you could add like your own terrain, like if you had stalagmite models or crystals or something, you could put them in there. The enemies could duck behind. But with this case, we'll actually just make our own out of cardboard. So I'm going to make some stalagmites, and I've just cut 3 irregular shaped pieces of cardboard, and I'll just glue it. And so I've got the first one, so I'll just put that in there, and I'll put that there. You want to give your people plenty of room to maneuver around or maneuver through and give thought to what size of creatures you have. So if a creature has a 2-inch base, you need to get around, so think about that. So I'll put that one there, and I'll put the rest of them on, and we'll talk some more about it. So as you can see, I've got all the stalagmites on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little bit of irregular texture, just like I did the walls, to add some interest. So I'll just use the glue gun and just Okay, so we've finished our handiwork. We've put the sinkhole in, and we put the cardstock behind it to be able to paint the hole in. Then we put some stalagmites in, and we've given those a rocky texture with the glue gun. So here's kind of a closer look. And you'll see how good that looks when we paint it. And so now basically all we need to do is finish this tile, and we'll be ready for game. So here's our completed tile. I showed how in the first video how to paint and texture the tile to get to this point. So here we've got the entrance here, and we've got the wall going all around, and then we've got the stalagmites in the center here, and then the sinkhole right there. What we're going to do is finish off this tile. Make it a lot more interesting and visually appealing, and that's where we'll progress to from here. Now on previous tiles I've shown, I've had some rubble on the terrain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I do that with flocking. And so basically flocking is just taking some glue and then putting sand in the glue and letting it dry, and that'll give a nice rubble effect or a loose stone effect. Now the sand I have here is just a mixed sand. It's like it's not play sand. It has a little bit of pebbles and stones in it. You can also add parakeet or bird rocks to the sand to put a little more rock texture in the sand. And then you just use some white glue, and we're going to go ahead and do that now, and I'll show you how that works. So I'll put my sand down there, and got my glue. And so we just use the white glue. That's all you need. So we'll put a few areas of rubble in this. So let's add some to this near this stalagmite. And I'll add some near this one. And how about some near the entrance? A little more. I'll add some over here. And then some here. A little here. A little here. So now I've got my glue down. So now I'm going to take the sand and just scoop it out. And I'm just going to kind of pour it onto the glue so you can't see any of the glue. And like I say, this is just a mixed sand. You can get this sand at any big box construction store. And you want the coarse sand, you don't want the play sand. The coarse sand has the little small teeny pebbles in it. So now we've got all that on. So now we'll just let that dry, and we'll move on to the next step from there. Okay, as we talked about before, here's the tile, and the rubble has the rubble piles have dried. But as you can see, they don't stand out very well because they're sand colored, so I want to remedy that. And so what we'll do is we'll get some water and wet our black down. That's just black acrylic paint. Going to make it pretty thin. And then I'm going to use that to color in the rubble piles, make them darker. You can kind of embellish. If you make this fairly thin, the rubble will suck up the water, so it won't take so long to paint. And we'll just finish these up. If you find you are a little thin on the pile, you can always add a little more black to it. So I've got all my rubble piles. Now I also want to do the shading like I did on the previous episode tile. So I'm going to go along the edge. That gives a nice shading that separates out the wall, makes it pop. So we get that. Also going to do some shading around the stalagmites. And you want this fairly thin. Now, I've also got, do a few little darker areas. Now you also might want to, or also we have the sinkhole here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it very black here, and then I'm going to fill that in so it looks like a hole. And then I want to make this part the darkest. And what I'm going to do is clean my brush off a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up some of this light gray. And then I'm going to paint, kind of lightly stroke the outside here. So it kind of looks like it's a depression. It's like going into the hole. So I could kind of play with that some more. It's kind of light, so I'm going to add a little more black to that. Add a little more. And let's see how that kind of gives the illusion of that's going down into a hole. So it looks really nice. There we go. Okay, so we got that. So now we've basically got the black areas done. What I'm going to do is let these rubble piles dry for a minute, and then we'll highlight the rubble in the pile so they'll really pop out, really look nice. We'll also highlight the edge, and make the wall also really pop out. So we'll let that dry for a few minutes, and then we'll be back. Hello, back again. We've let our black dry, and now we're going to do some dry brushing. And for this phase, I like to use a brush that's, as you can see, it's not sharply chiseled, but it has a little bit more chisel than the other brush. So basically with the dry brush technique, instead of wetting the paint, you use the paint, you just scoop it up on the brush, and you just get a little bit of paint on the brush. And then what I'm going to do is just go around the edge and see how that picks that edge out. Oops. Look at that, just pops right out. So I'll just go all the way around the edge. Now those rubble piles that just look black, when I put some of this on there, look at that, they just pop right out. Those rubble piles just pop right out of this, right in the background there. And these rubble piles are flat enough that they shouldn't hinder your play. Now, what I can do is I can also do these pillars and kind of make them pop, these stone pillars. Go around the edges. Look how those pop out. Get this one. And then I've got the sinkhole here, so I'm going to make the edge, I'm going to do the same thing to the edge, so I'll dry brush that edge without getting into the hole. And so that makes that edge very visible, so it makes it more interesting, makes it more 3D. And you can do a few little highlights on the tile itself, give a little more interest. So there we go. We have a completed tile. Now, one of the nice things about these tiles, even when you're done, the texture paint makes them actually very strong. So as you can see, this isn't just floppy cardboard. This is a very strong tile. The edging and the rubble and all these other things tend to make these pieces very durable. So they could last years and years, and that's how you make it a regular tile. Hey, DM Scotty here. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Next time I think I'm going to talk about ways to add more interest to your dungeon tiles. So like maybe putting slime or water or other features in your tiles. Very easy to do, and we'll talk about that next time. Till then, see ya.